Good afternoon Internet, and welcome once again to an L. Taylor guitar lesson. Today I'm going to be going through one of the absolute staples of rock, blues and I guess metal as well, and this is a kind of string bend lick thingy. I am certain at some point you will have heard this lick being performed. The basic idea is that you start off with two separate pitches, one higher than the other, and then you bend the lower of the two until it reaches that pitch. Couple things before we get started. I'm going to be using the B minor scale, so if you don't know B minor, you can get away with B minor pentatonic, I suppose. You should go refresh your memory on that. Also, if you haven't heard the word intonation before, or you want to refresh your memory on the basics of string bending, my basics video is here. You should go and do that now. Pause the video. It's fine. I don't mind. I'm just going to sit here until you're done. So to start off with, in B minor, I am going to have my first finger on the B string here at the 7th fret. My second finger, although feel free to use your third finger if you prefer, this is on the 9th fret of the G string, the string below it, that one. Together, they don't sound very good. Pretty terrible, actually, I would say. But having played both strings, I'm then going to bend the G string thusly. Do that again. So you can hear now there's actually the same pitch. You're hearing it twice, so it's a bigger sound, but it's the same pitch. And then if I return it, it sounds a bit horrible again. You're starting off with two different pitches, but then this lower pitch you are bending up to reach the same pitch as you're playing with your first finger. So this is your target pitch and this is a knot. If you practiced intonation as I advised in the previous lesson, you should have no problem bending to reach a particular pitch. It does take practice, but it's, I'm sure you'll agree, perfectly worthwhile. Before we move on, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing but on the strings above. So again, your first finger is on the 7th fret and this is your target pitch, but you're bending from a fret above where you just were. So I'm again using my second finger, but I would not blame you for using your third or even fourth fingers in this case. So first finger on 7th fret, whatever your other finger is, on the 10th fret, which is 1 fret higher previously, and it's the same deal together. It's really specific, kind of nasty, and then you bend them. You can even add a little bit of vibrato if you really want. Very good. The reason that sounds so cool is because having got two pitches that sound, as discussed, pretty bad together, you're then taking from that and going very gradually up in all the frequencies that are available. So once you hit the target pitch, it's this big release. Again, it's tension and release, which is what all good music, if not life, is really about: tension and release, I guess. So them first two are tabbed on Tumblr. If you want the Tumblr link, it's in the description of this video on YouTube, or if you're already on Tumblr, just scroll down and you'll find it. Now there are a few other places you can perform this trick, still within B minor, around pretty much the same area we've been working in. Here's a pro tip before we get into that. Many players will think that the note you start on prior to performing a bend is the note that the listeners will hear and feel is the note being affected. So if I start on a G and bend upwards, the listeners will hear an affected G. It's actually the opposite that is pretty much always the case. Start on a note, any note, and bend up to a G, then release from the G to whatever note. The listeners will then hear an affected G. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but get used to it, I suppose. So with that in mind, I tend not to worry too much about what note I'm starting the bends on, as long as I know the target pitch is actually within the scale. Yeah? For the high E string in B minor, I know that the frets 7, 9 and 10 are within the scale box shape, yeah? So provided my fingers stay the 3 frets distance from each other, and I know I'm bending with the right amount of gusto, I suppose, I know I'm going to hit my target pitch. So the bends should be... Sounds alright. So on the B string, I know that the notes are at the 7, 8 and 10th frets, so again, I'm keeping my fingers the right distance from each other. This case, it's a fret lower than with the previous string, and I just perform the bends again. Sounds good. Again, these are tabbed on the Tumblr page, go find that, you'll be fine. So I'll just leave you with a few more options. Sticking with the natural minor box shape, there's actually an additional 2 notes per string you can play for the high B and E strings. On either string, you can play 2 frets behind the lowest note and 2 frets above the highest note. So rather than just on the E string, it's... And for the B string, so you can bend to those as well. So on the E string, that one particularly is quite nice. And on the B string, there you go. So that's a total of 5 places on each string that you can perform those bends. Not bad, right? And if you want to play around with it in a little more detail, I find that the tension created because you've got these 2 pitches almost reaching the same point, I tend to play with that a little bit, so I'll bend up to it but then not quite, and then bend down a little bit. So you can hear how I reach that just as the note started to decay. You can play with that tension and it's a lot of fun. That's quite enough for now. There'll be 2 videos here on more advanced string bending techniques. The top one will be on overbends and the bottom one will be on pre-bends. So as ever, please subscribe, please like, please comment, and Merry Bendmas, I guess.